I want to talk about how CPS is used to attack grieving families and inflict heavy financial losses on them. First, 2012, my dad killed himself walking across the freeway in front of a Mack truck with a baseball helmet on, and again 5 years later when my wife died. They were used to attack my family and inflict heavy financial losses. In both cases, we ended up having to move. We lost our house, ended up very deeply in debt, and I'm still hopelessly in debt because of it. 8 years after the second instance, I am hopelessly in debt, and I can't pay it. I can't pay the debt back that I have. I found out after my wife died in 2012 that she had been a rape victim, a victim of incest as a child, and they were using drugs to do that to her. And I reported it to law enforcement, social services, as soon as I found out, and they began harassing me and my family. Social services did, me and my kids, in the months immediately following my wife dying. And they wouldn't stop. And it was so stressful because they tried to tell me I couldn't date. I was dating my partner at the time, who later died just 3 years later, barely 3 years later. And that was right after she died. And they tried to break up my relationship with my partner, even though there was nothing wrong going on, no drug use or anything like that. And I had to call a supervisor out there who confronted the worker, who was just supposed to offer resources. Her role wasn't to investigate. She was some conservative black woman driving a BMW coming out to our country house to harass us and try to dictate our personal rights. She literally drove all the way out there from Richmond, Texas, in high heels and a dress and a BMW, coming up a gravel driveway, just to hand me a piece of paper with a phone number on it. She didn't offer any other resources or support of any kind. It was a transportation number to get back and forth to the doctor. That's the only reason she was there. And she tried to tell me I couldn't date my partner, simply because, it was against her values or her morals or whatever. It wasn't a CPS policy. And it didn't stop there. They kept coming back to the house, trying to search the house. They would take pictures of my rooms. They demanded to search my rooms, take pictures. Closet, master bedroom, my office, my kids' room. These were not spaces that the kids had access to, all of them. My office was locked. My bedroom, my closets were locked. They wanted to go in there and take pictures of everything. Without a warrant, no judicial warrant, no probable cause, no court order. They're just abusing their powers is what they were doing. And they kept coming back on average every 3 to 4 months with no probable cause or warrant until we moved out of our house. And then when we moved 200 miles away, they started showing up over there too. We weren't doing anything. There was nothing going on. Nothing was wrong. And we got out to our apartment, and they would visit every 3 months. And I said, "What do y'all want? Why y'all here again?" And I finally just said, "Fuck it. We're not going to take any more visits. I'm done. I'm not going to let them visit with us anymore." And after our lease ended, I didn't. I told them we're not gonna deal with this problem anymore. And they kept doing the same pattern, searching, trying to take pictures of our food cabinets, trying to take pictures of our refrigerator. They took pictures without my consent, without a warrant in every single case. I was trying to be cooperative with them. Really, they were just sniffing around for probable cause to try to remove the kids. Because what was happening was, after I notified authorities about what happened to my wife, after I found out that they were initiating swatting calls against us using law enforcement, social services reporting. And little did I know that I had been a crime victim and that I wasn't the only one. I was suffering from amnesia. My wife had attacked me in my sleep. She'd become an offender. She attacked me with a weapon. And I made people aware of that, and I tried to get legal assistance. I lost my job because I got really sick on account of mold and mono and severe anxiety. And I stayed unemployed for years. And I was simply trying to be left alone so I could deal with the grief of losing my spouse, because I was in shock on account of the fact that I had lost her and hadn't known any of this stuff that was going on with her. There was this whole double life thing going on. She was cheating. She was involved in a relationship with her father that I didn't know about, that had started out with her being abused and turned to her seeking him out for drugs and for a ritual type of abuse that she was experiencing from him. She had developed a fixation with consensual non-consent. He was dead by the time I learned this, and so was she. And it came to be the case that I had to do DNA testing. I DNA tested to make sure my children were mine. And I shared every scrap of information that I could find as I learned it with law enforcement. I wrote to government. I wrote to my senators. My senators, Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, wouldn't help. And we ended up losing our life investment, our savings, our 401ks, hers and mine, trying to fight the lender after I made them aware of the situation with the house being damaged. What had been going on with her, and my credit got ruined, and I lost my job. I got very sick within the first 18 months after she died. I'd been working at that company for 9 years, and the new mortgage servicer, Shell Point Mortgage Servicing, was predatory. They were a predatory lender that just simply wanted you to give all your money to them. They would demand lump sums and apply junk fees and so forth and raise the cost of your mortgage by an extra $350, $400 a month. And they would hit you with just thousands of dollars in junk fees, trying to kill your loan. Then they would refuse payments. They'd cause your insurance to lapse because they wouldn't pay your insurance either, even though it's within the contract that the lender is supposed to pay out of the payments that you send in. They took the money I had in escrow and they held it until my policy lapsed and applied force-placed insurance and started billing my account. And simultaneously, they were refusing payments. I didn't know what the hell to do, and nobody would help us. This is before the pandemic even hit. That started in 2017. And this business, this whole mess continued for years. So finally, I was so stressed out that, I just moved out of the house with my family. We had to stay in a local motel, in town a few miles away. And it was awful there. And I spent a couple of months there, and I saw and heard things there that, I'm like, God, we got to get the hell out of here. That's what led me to move to the apartment. But it just, the harassment just continued. Even after we moved out of the house, we were getting harassed by social services. And I wasn't doing anything wrong. I didn't drink, do drugs, party, nothing. Just imagine you're sitting at home and you're watching movies and TV, helping your kids with their homework, doing everything you're supposed to do, and this fucking government agency just won't leave you alone. You mow your grass, you pick litter up off your lawn, you clean, you help your neighbors, you're a good neighbor, you're not doing anything wrong, and these people just won't stop. And it just kept going on. It went on from 2017 to 2021 when I finally moved out of the apartment. It didn't stop there either. From there, because my credit was bad, we were in foreclosure proceedings for 5 years. I had to move into transient month-to-month housing. And I had to stay in transient housing for 4 years with my family, paying month-to-month. And we couldn't get legal aid. I was applying for legal aid with Lone Star Legal Aid over and over and over again, trying to fight off the foreclosure, trying to get help with the fact that they had sold us a lemon house. The house got burglarized while we were staying in the first hotel before we got that apartment. Came back, my water tank was gone. My sewer system had been sabotaged. It was flooding the yard. My well tank had been stolen, and the pipes that went down in the ground for the tank to be supplied were snapped off coming out of the cement. I just had that well house built. It cost me $5,000 in cash. And there was so much stuff that we were having to deal with. It was just overwhelming. It was really, truly terrible. And social services was swatting us. We were having swatting calls placed against us to law enforcement, social services, over and over and over again by criminals. This was initially it was by a mother-in-law who had sexually assaulted me using drugs with the help of two of her daughters. And then later, we were being falsely reported on by the same people who broke into our house and damaged it. And those people, those people that lived next door had promised to protect the house, but they were a bunch of Latino thugs that were involved in organized crime, using and selling drugs and getting drunk over there at every opportunity. And they would steal from people to go and pawn stuff to pay for basic needs that they had, get food from the food bank month after month, and money that wasn't put towards their bills was put towards drugs and alcohol, so they could get drunk and high. So I reported them for burglary after giving them a day to bring the stuff back, and they came back and broke my windows out. Law enforcement didn't do anything. Nobody was arrested in either case. And then they came back again, and I don't know what other fixtures they took out of the house because they chased me from the house when I went to check on it. Law enforcement didn't arrest anybody then either. And then they came back again, and they stole the condenser out of the yard. We had a Goodman air conditioner condenser out there, a big square unit with a evaporator coil and a cooling fan in the middle. And they cut the hoses and wires coming out of that thing, and they took it over to their house and set it in their driveway for everybody to see. Nobody got arrested. They got away with it. Police didn't prosecute or arrest anybody. The house sat vacant with grass that was 15 feet high because landscapers didn't want to go out there to visit it. It stayed that way for 3 years, pending foreclosure, with a lender applying junk fees and racking up as much debt as they could. I think they had us up to $155,000. When I moved out of the house, I owed like $107,000. 5 years after initiating foreclosure proceedings, I got the tax office to force them to take action and to liquidate the property because they had my keys for more than a year. After we left, they had keys and they wouldn't come and take possession of the property. They wouldn't mow it, and I was legally liable. If the house burnt down, I was going to be liable for whatever happened. They viewed the property as a nuisance property, and the area was up and coming. It was developing. And it exploded with real estate development all around that area during that time, from 2020 to 2022. Massive housing developments went up all around us. They built a storage facility next to it. And the real estate value shot up dramatically from what I had initially purchased it for. So when the house was sold, in addition to settling the loan, the predatory servicer got $26,000 in surplus funds, and they kept that too. I wasn't notified until more than 2 years after the house was sold that there were surplus funds from the sale. So we lost our entire investment. The money that I used to secure the home was for my dad being struck and killed by a truck when he most likely committed suicide. And I lost my wife 18 months after getting financed on the house. 17 months. But still, She killed herself to be with her dad because she had an electric complex. And I didn't know any of that shit that was going on. I wasn't aware of it, but I made the law enforcement aware of what was going on because she had been sexually abused by her family. And they didn't arrest any of them. They did not arrest any of my neighbors who were breaking into the house. There was a guy over there who, he had been telling me, look, if you don't give me money, I'm going to break in while your wife and kids are sleeping, living across the street. He wanted protection. This guy was a professional thug. He'd been in and out of jail like 8 times. And law enforcement would not arrest him or pick him up. They were dumping out there and poured antifreeze on the ground and dumping motor oil on the ground and setting fires all around their property. And you'd think we were way out in the middle of nowhere, but we were right on the edge of Arcola city limits in Texas. And we kept calling environmental enforcement, but they wouldn't do anything to rigidly stop these patterns of behavior from continuing. I was telling them, look, I'm trying to sell this house. I'm trying to liquidate because I realize now it's not safe out there. We got bad neighbors, After that, my neighbor next door fenced off his property from these people. Both of his properties, he had 2 lots. And then the people who bought my house, after it was foreclosed on and refurbished, they fenced off. They put a large wooden privacy fence up to block the view of most of their property from these people. But other neighbors put up, pro-gun signs and things like that. While I was dealing with all that with that house, after spending 18 months elevating the property and bringing in 35 dump truck loads of dirt, I was having to fight the agency too, when I wasn't even doing anything wrong. They were just motherfuckers. I'm just going to lay it out just like that. I'm sick of it. I am sick of unlawful behavior by government, by law enforcement, by social services. I've written hundreds of letters about this situation that we were dealing with. I couldn't get legal assistance because of what I look like. Everybody thinks I'm so strong because, hey, he's white. He must be rich. He must come from privilege. Oh, he's a man. So what? It doesn't mean that I don't need legal help. It doesn't mean I don't need advocacy. And there's a lot of stuff that happened that I'm not even mentioning here where other people victimized me with crime before this situation happened with her and her family. And before the house was broken into, and then after the house was broken into, and after we had to move out of there, and we were among a real bad element of people. And I got to the point where I was like shell shocked from constant traffic coming through my home, knocking on my front door, no warrant, no court order. I wasn't committing any crimes. I wasn't doing anything wrong at all. But in both cases where my dad died, my mom wasn't there, and my wife was doing what she was doing, and she killed herself. In all these cases, the agency was an oppressor to me as a victim of crime. I had grown up and experienced neglect and abuse, and I was a good kid. I was a straight A student. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't party. I didn't drink or do drugs. And the agency did not help me. They were used to oppress me through false reporting from early childhood up to present day, most likely. It probably still continues even now. But I came to the point that I absolutely wouldn't tolerate it anymore. I developed an allergy to contact with them or any kind of harassment from them. I wouldn't entertain it. I won't answer my phone for them if they ever call me. I won't reply to emails. I won't let them access my household or my family. They're criminals. They are criminals, and they destroy families. They'll run you off your fucking land. They they get used by criminals in Texas right up to the moment that they banned the anonymous reporting. Sorry, people were able to pick up the phone and file reprisal-based reports for things entirely unrelated to child welfare or family safety by making anonymous calls to the social services hotline without leaving their name or any identifying information at all. They just dropped the name of somebody else they didn't like, and they could use CPS to attack that family on the basis that they had kids. That is the shit that was happening to us. And it happened at least, at a minimum, 14 times over the course of 4 years before I said, fuck it. No matter what happens, I'm not entertaining it anymore. I needed a lawyer to argue for me, to help defend so we wouldn't have any more losses. I can't save anything. We hemorrhaged finances, money, investments, everything, until we had none of it left. And our house foreclosed, and I lost all 4 of my vehicles that me and my wife had. We had a van from her dad's house. We had a pickup truck and 2 sedans, and it's all gone. I haven't had a car in 13 months. I kept getting ticketed by police. They would harass me. After the agency continued their harassment, I wouldn't entertain it anymore. The police gave me a hard time. And they wanted to know all the time what my whereabouts are. I said, look, my address is current. Just because I have an address that's current does not mean that I'm going to be there. It does not mean that you're going to be allowed to harass me. Well, I'm not doing anything. You don't have a right of access simply because I have children. There's no lawful grounds to contact me or harass me or my kids. The kids just want to be left alone. They're not young children anymore. They're old teenagers. And we just wanted to be left alone. It came to the point that I can't own real property. I can't own a house. I cannot own land. I can't lease a property, an apartment, or anything, because if anything shows up that indicates my exact physical whereabouts, even though I don't have any warrants out for my arrest, if I own tangible assets or real estate, the agency will show up and they'll try to strong arm their way onto my property to bother me and my children using false reporting initiated by people I shared information on. And in the course of looking into what happened to my wife, I found out a lot more, and a lot more people were incriminated by what I learned. And I shared that evidence with the FBI and with local law enforcement in Texas and with social services. And despite all that, they continued to try to give me a hard time and harass me. Every time I would get pulled over by the police, and even recently when I got bothered by them a few months ago, these piece of shit law enforcement officers would be like, what's your current address? What is your current address? Where do you live? Where are you going home to? I said, look, that's none of your business. The address that's on my driver's license is my physical permanent address. I might not be home. I receive mail there. I get bills there. That's all you need to know. You know, I'm not hiding from anybody. If I was a criminal, I wouldn't be stopping for traffic stops. I'd be running. If I had warrants out, I would not be stopping for the police to talk to them or to be interdicted by them. Fuck off. You know? You don't like it? Fuck you. That's what I got to say to them. I'm not a criminal. That doesn't give you a right of access, you bastards. You don't like it? There it is. Just because somebody goes into a fucking movie theater and screams fire does not mean there's a goddamn fire. You know? And you get tired of that shit. You get tired of people coming and running and check on you. like something's going on. Nothing's going on. I'm just sick of being harassed. My family was sick of being harassed. We were grieving, and it's a long-term grief. I truly loved my wife. We were devastated by losing her, and she ruined a beautiful thing. And the agency came in behind her after she died, trying to wipe us out material and financially, and they did all that at the behest of criminals who would make up all kinds of crazy shit. I don't even know what they were saying. I was never even told any of the grounds for horse shit that these people were doing. Like, what you come to my house for? What's your probable cause? What's your reasonable articulable suspicion? Where's your warrant? Go get a judicial warrant. Fuck y'all. If you want to come to my house, I'm tired of it, man. Don't come contact me if you don't have a judicial warrant or a court order stating probable cause. Where's your evidence? I'm sitting there and I'm feeding information to law enforcement on what happened to my wife because I loved her and she died. And she died because they got her hooked on drugs through sexual abuse. What the fuck is wrong with these people? I still need a lawyer. I'm not a bad person, but I'm sick of it. I'm ready to rage quit on that whole situation. I'm not an angry person, but I have a lasting, strong opposition to that continued violation of my boundaries, my home, my family. I'm a special crime victim. I mean, she cut my face in my sleep. Couldn't remember it for 10 years. After she died, 5 years after that, I could finally begin to remember what she and her family had done to me. And I still loved her with all my heart and soul. And she put me in this very difficult position. I tried to tell my story while CPS and these other people were doing all this stuff to me and my family. And the publisher that I retained ended up being a scammer. And they stole my money. They took almost $40,000 from me while I was dealing with all this stuff. And then I ended up losing my home too. So I feel like I've just been kicked in the nuts over and over again by these people. And I don't know anybody who wouldn't be very angry at the point that I'm at. I don't know anybody who wouldn't be very upset. The child welfare system in America is broken. Just because somebody screams fire, or even if a whole bunch of different people over a period of time scream fire, does not mean there's a goddamn fire. There's nothing wrong. My family and I are safe. All basic needs are met. There's no neglect or abuse that is occurring. I'm a normal person with a very boring life outside of this BS that I married into, And these people, they've got the audacity to try to weaponize law enforcement and social services. And they did it so much that it became a major, catastrophic life disruptor having these visits that we would get. We were living in a perpetual state of a very heightened fear. Just imagine being afraid, very afraid all the time. That is what we were dealing with. Constantly worried that somebody was going to make some shit up, try to take the children, and they were going to have all their shit taken away from them. Last time they went into the system, 14 years ago, they lost all their furniture. All the clothing that was sent with them never came back. None of that stuff came back. It was kept. My mother-in-law kept a lot of it, and the system kept the rest of it. And they're fucking bastards for that. That shit needs to stop. Kids that go into the system and leave the system at any point in time should not have their clothing or their toys, any of that stuff, their furniture stolen from them. Social services does that stuff. Everything that they went into the system with was gone. It's all taken, 100%. And It seems like every time a family experiences any kind of traumatic event, the agency is there to attack them, to try to cause catastrophic losses, job loss, being threatened with termination at your job. I experienced that the first time around. My job kept giving me warning letters and threatening to fire me, even though I was having to go to court every 3 weeks, because family court was having me go in there every 3 weeks. And the second time, they were just attacking us over and over again. It was these black women mostly, constantly. There was a black guy, and there were several different black women that came to my house. Then there was a white woman who was supposed to be a master investigator. And fuck all of them, you know? That's what I have to say. Fuck all of them. Why? If you don't have grounds to come to my house to search my home, question me or my family, if you don't have probable cause and a judicial warrant, do not contact me. Do not bother me as a social services investigator or law enforcement officer. You don't have grounds, you know? If you're a lawyer and you're seeing this video, you're willing to help pro bono, I'd like to get a restraining order against those people so they can never contact me or my family again, any of them. Because how do you rebuild your life when you're constantly feeling that bullshit? As a special victim, I'm a rape victim. I am a drug-facilitated sexual assault victim. I survived child exploitation, child abuse as a kid. Why are they harassing me without end? Law enforcement has no right to give me a hard time when I am walking to the store or walking home. They don't have any right to give my family a hard time. My son got attacked by one of these people when he was 5 years old. Had no idea about that until he told me around the same time that my memory came back. And he was hospitalized by this violent offender. The guy is dead, and he had gotten drugged by him. He woke up to his mom being assaulted, and he couldn't remember. And now all we want is just to have a normal life that's quiet and to be left alone. Special victims have a right to dignity. They have a right to peace, especially children. You don't have a right to terrorize a child who has been attacked by a violent pedophile and hospitalized in the ICU. That's why I hate social services with a passion. I absolutely deplore them. Those are vile people that need to be stopped. Legislatively, they need their power stripped from them. I see them doing to people on a financial and emotional level. The threat of family separation is the same thing that ICE is doing in Minnesota and other parts of the country right now. It's absolutely abominable. They're like a wrecking ball. They come through and it's a nuclear attack on your family. You have to worry about members of your family experiencing violence in the system, being victimized by the court system when the law enforcement officers and social workers make things up and they don't even observe due process. They don't observe probable cause requirements or have a warrant when they contact you, question you, try to search you, interview your family, question you and your family, separate you and your family. We went through such a ringer of that shit. Having to go to CASA for interviews, having my kids interviewed repeatedly over and over at school. They didn't notify me. Prior to it, they didn't give permission, nothing. I'm done. I don't know anybody who wouldn't be fed up after 8 years. They can fuck off. Before too much longer, my children will be 18 years old. Those goddamn people won't have added anything to their life. All they've done is expensed us, taken time from us that we can't get back. And the agency needs to be bulldozed. They need to be stopped. They're a menace to the American people, just like ICE is.